My name is Cassandra, and at 34 years old, I never imagined I'd be the villain in my family's story. All I wanted was to create magical memories for my 5-year-old daughter Emma at Disneyland. Instead, I was labelled a backstabber, and worse, by my own parents and siblings. What should have been a dream vacation spiraled into a nightmare of family betrayal, uncovering decades of toxic secrets. Before I share how a simple trip shattered my family forever, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe to hear the shocking truth that came next. Being a single mother wasn't my original life plan, but from the moment I held Emma in my arms 5 years ago, I knew I'd move mountains for her. I built my interior design business from scratch while juggling midnight feedings and diaper changes. By the time Emma started kindergarten, I had finally achieved the financial stability we deserved. My family had always been close-knit on the surface. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were mandatory, a tradition established by my father Richard long before I was born. My mother Margaret supported his every decision, maintaining the image of the perfect homemaker, despite the controlling nature that bubbled beneath her pleasant smiles. My older brother James married his high school sweetheart Samantha, and they had 3 children whom my parents adored. James worked at my father's insurance company, a position handed to him despite his mediocre business skills. Samantha didn't work outside the home, dedicating herself to raising their kids with the same traditional values my parents championed. Then there was my younger sister Amanda, 29, and still living in our childhood home. She claimed to be finding herself while working part-time at a boutique owned by my mother's friend. Her complete dependence on our parents was something they encouraged rather than questioned. Family decisions are family decisions, my father would announce whenever anyone considered making a choice without group approval. This applied to everything from career moves to weekend plans, creating an environment where independence was viewed as betrayal. I broke this unspoken rule when I got pregnant with Emma after a brief relationship with her father Michael. When I told my family about the pregnancy, my father's face turned a shade of purple I'd never seen before. "You've always been selfish, Cassandra, but this takes the cake," he had said. "What will people think?" Michael vanished before Emma was born, unable to handle the responsibility of fatherhood. My family reluctantly supported me during the pregnancy, but their help came with constant reminders of my poor choices and how I had embarrassed the family. Despite their disapproval, I finished my design degree while pregnant and launched my business when Emma was just 6 months old. I worked from home initially, designing spaces during nap times and after bedtime. As Emma grew, so did my client list. By her 4th birthday, I had 3 employees and a portfolio featuring some of the most beautiful homes in our area. My family never acknowledged this success. At Sunday dinners, conversations centered around James's promotion arranged by my father or Amanda's latest hobby. When clients complimented my work at community events, my mother would quickly change the subject. "Cassandra got lucky with a few good clients," she'd say dismissively. "Not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder to be fulfilled." The dynamic was clear. My achievements threatened the family hierarchy. James was supposed to be the successful one, Amanda the creative one. I was the rebel who needed to be kept in her place. When Emma started kindergarten last fall, she struggled to adjust. Being shy by nature, making friends didn't come easily to her. Her teacher noticed she was spending recess alone and suggested I find ways to boost her confidence. "Mommy Ariel is brave, even though she's different," Emma said one night as we read her favourite Little Mermaid book. Her fascination with Disney princesses had begun when she was 3, her bedroom walls covered with posters of characters who overcame obstacles to find happiness. That's when inspiration struck. Emma's 5th birthday was coming up during spring break, the perfect timing for a special trip. I began researching Disneyland packages that same night, calculating costs and saving strategies. For 3 months, I worked extra projects and cut personal expenses to afford the perfect Disney experience. I didn't tell Emma about my plans, wanting to surprise her on her birthday. I did, however, mention the upcoming trip during a Sunday dinner 2 weeks before our departure date. I wasn't asking for permission. I was 34 years old with my own successful business and my own child. I simply thought they'd be happy for Emma's excitement. I couldn't have been more wrong. Disneyland. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. "For a 5-year-old. That seems excessive, Cassandra." The table fell silent. My father stopped mid-chew, narrowing his eyes at me over his reading glasses. James and Samantha exchanged knowing glances while their children perked up at the mention of Disney. "It's for Emma's birthday," I explained, confused by their reaction. "She's been having a tough time at school, and I thought this would be something special for just the 2 of us." Must be nice to waste money like that, James muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Some of us have 3 kids to consider, not just one. I felt my cheeks flush. It's not a waste. I've been saving specifically for this. Amanda abruptly stood up, her chair screeching against the hardwood floor. Without a word, she left the table and disappeared upstairs. My mother sighed dramatically, as if I had deliberately upset her youngest child. "Now look what you've done," she said, folding her napkin with precise movements. "You know how sensitive your sister is." My father cleared his throat, a sound that had silenced family disagreements for decades. "Cassandra, have you considered how this looks to your nieces and nephews? How are James and Samantha supposed to explain to their children why their cousin gets to go to Disneyland, while they don't?" "That's not my responsibility," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emma is my daughter, and this is a decision about my family." "We are all family," my father countered, his voice dropping to that dangerous, quiet tone he used when his authority was questioned. "Every decision impacts everyone. There's such a thing as equality among cousins, and you're setting a precedent here that will cause problems for years." Samantha nodded vigorously. "The kids have been asking about Disney for years, but we've always told them it's too expensive. Now they'll know that's not true for everyone." The implication was clear. I was showing off, flaunting my financial success in a way that made them look bad. "You should have consulted us before planning something like this," my mother added. "That's how family works." "I didn't realize I needed permission to take my own daughter on vacation," I said, feeling my patience wearing thin. The dinner ended with tense silence and forced conversation about safer topics. As I drove home with Emma sleeping in her car seat, my phone began buzzing with text messages. "James. Way to make me look like a bad dad. Thanks a lot. My mother, Amanda, is crying in her room. I hope you're happy. Samantha, the kids are asking why they can't go to Disney now. This is exactly why we discussed these things first." The messages continued for days. Amanda called me sobbing, claiming I was deliberately trying to make her look bad as an aunt who couldn't afford such gifts. My mother left voicemails about family unity being more important than showing off. Even my father sent an uncharacteristic text suggesting I reconsider the trip and use the money for something more appropriate for all the cousins to enjoy equally. As our departure date approached, my anxiety grew, but so did my determination. Emma deserved this special experience, and I had worked hard to provide it for her. I decided to avoid family contact until after the trip, turning my phone to silent whenever we weren't at home and screening calls. 3 days before leaving, I wrapped a Disney princess dress and a letter from Moana inviting Emma to the Magic Kingdom for her birthday. When she opened it, her eyes widened with a joy so pure it brought tears to my eyes. "Are we really going to meet the real princesses?" she gasped, hugging the letter to her chest. "Yes, baby, just you and me on a special birthday adventure," I promised. In that moment, I knew no amount of family disapproval could take away the magic we were about to experience. "Mommy, look!" "It's the castle from the movies," Emma squealed, pointing frantically as we walked down Main Street, USA. Her eyes were wider than I'd ever seen them, reflecting the pink and blue spires of Sleeping Beauty's castle. I'd planned our Disneyland trip down to the minute, ensuring we'd experience everything Emma had dreamed about. We'd spent the previous night in a nearby hotel watching Disney movies and packing our matching Mickey ears for the big day. Now watching my daughter literally jumping with excitement, I knew every extra shift and budget cut had been worth it. Emma was wearing her Moana costume, her dark curls bouncing as she skipped ahead of me, stopping every few feet to take in another magical sight. "Can we meet Moana first? Please, please, please," she begged, tugging at my hand. "She'll be at Adventure Isle in 30 minutes, I said, consulting the schedule I'd memorized. "We have just enough time to get there." The line to meet Moana was already forming, but Emma didn't mind the wait. She practiced her introduction and questions determined to make the most of her moment with her favorite character. When it was finally our turn, Emma froze suddenly, overcome with shyness. Moana knelt down to Emma's level, speaking softly. "I sailed across the ocean to meet brave friends like you," she said. "What's your name, Voyager?" "I'm Emma," my daughter whispered. "Today is my birthday, a birthday that calls for a special Moana hug." The performer opened her arms and Emma rushed into them. I fumbled for my phone, determined to capture the moment, but found myself blinking back tears instead. Emma's face was transformed with pure joy, the kind of happiness that makes a parent's heart swell until it feels like it might burst. Throughout the day, we rode gentle rides, watched parades, and collected character signatures in the special autograph book I'd bought for the occasion. Emma insisted on getting a photo with every princess, solemnly telling each one about her kindergarten class and her favorite books. For lunch, I'd arranged a special birthday celebration at one of the restaurants. The staff brought out a cupcake with a candle while singing to Emma, who beamed with pride as nearby tables joined in. A family at the next table asked how old she was turning. "I'm 5 whole years old today," Emma announced, holding up her hand with all 5 fingers splayed. "Your daughter is adorable," the mother told me. "You're creating memories she'll cherish forever." That evening, as we watched the fireworks explode over the castle, Emma sat on my shoulders, her small hands resting on top of my head. The colours reflected in her awestruck face as she gasped with each new burst of light. "This is the best day ever, Mommy," she whispered during a quiet moment between explosions. "Thank you for bringing me here." Those simple words made everything, the extra work, the saving the family drama, fade away into insignificance. We spent 3 magical days exploring every corner of the park. I took hundreds of photos, posting a few of the best moments on social media each night, after Emma fell asleep exhausted from our adventures. On our final evening, as we waited for the light parade to begin, Emma asked a question that caught me off guard. "Why couldn't my cousins come with us, Mommy? Wouldn't they love to see Mickey too?" I chose my words carefully. "Sometimes it's nice to have special time with just the 2 of us. Your cousins will have their own special trips someday. Like our special ice cream sundaes when it's just us girls," she asked, referring to our weekly tradition. "Exactly like that, but bigger." I smiled, relieved she understood. As we flew home the next day, Emma clutched her new Moana doll, occasionally whispering secrets in its ear. Looking at her peaceful, contented face, I felt a deep sense of maternal satisfaction. Despite my family's disapproval, I had given my daughter a memory that would last a lifetime. What I didn't realize was that those posted photos and our magical moments were fueling a storm that would break over us the moment we returned home. My phone began ringing before we even made it through our front door, Emma sleepily dragging her Disney princess suitcase behind her. I glanced at the screen and saw my mother's name. 6 missed calls from her, already 4 from James, 3 from Amanda, and even 1 from my father, who rarely used his phone. I put Emma to bed with her new Moana doll and listened to the voicemails. "Cassandra, this is your mother. Call us immediately. We need to have a family meeting this Sunday. It's mandatory." Her voice was clipped, barely controlled anger simmering beneath the surface. James's message was less subtle. "Nice job parading your Disney trip all over Facebook. Real considerate of you. Dad's furious, and the kids are asking questions we can't answer. You've really done it this time." The most disturbing was from my father. "I've never been more disappointed in you, Cassandra. Sunday, 3 o'clock. Don't be late." I sat on my couch in the dark, scrolling through my social media. I'd posted perhaps 10 photos over 3 days, Emma meeting Moana, both of us wearing Mickey ears, the castle lit up at night. Nothing excessive or boastful, just a mother sharing happy moments with her child. The comments beneath were mostly positive friends, congratulating Emma on her birthday, colleagues, remarking on how much fun we seemed to be having. Nothing that warranted this level of family outrage. By Sunday, my stomach was in knots, but I refused to show fear. If they wanted a confrontation, I'd face it head on. Emma chatted happily in the car, unaware of the tension awaiting us, excited to tell her cousins about meeting real princesses. My parents' house looked the same as always, impeccably maintained colonial, with perfectly trimmed hedges and seasonal wreaths. Inside, however, the atmosphere was Arctic. "Emma, honey, your cousins are playing upstairs," my mother said with forced cheerfulness. "Why don't you go join them while the grown-ups talk?" As soon as Emma disappeared upstairs, the facade dropped. My family sat arranged in the living room like an intervention panel, my parents on the sofa, James and Samantha in armchairs, Amanda perched on the piano bench. A single empty chair faced them all, my designated seat in the tribunal. "Sit down, Cassandra," my father commanded, not bothering with a greeting. I remained standing. "What is this about?" "You know exactly what this is about," James snapped. "Your little Disney extravaganza that you made sure everyone on social media could see. You've created a serious problem." My father continued, removing his glasses to clean them meticulously with his handkerchief, a nervous habit he displayed when particularly angry. "James and Samantha have had to deal with their children asking why Emma got to go to Disneyland while they didn't. You've created division among the cousins. Samantha leaned forward, her voice trembling with what seemed like practiced emotion. Lily cried herself to sleep after seeing those photos. She asked if we don't love her as much as you love Emma. Do you have any idea what that feels like as a parent? And you didn't even consider how this makes me look? Amanda added, her mascara already smudged from tears. I'm supposed to be Emma's aunt, but I can't compete with Disney princesses and parades. You're always trying to one-up everyone, Cassandra. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Family unity is what matters most. We've always tried to ensure all the children are treated equally, and you've destroyed that with your selfishness. I looked around at their face, genuinely distressed, but also I realized with growing clarity, genuinely outraged, that I had done something without their approval, something they couldn't control or diminish. I took my daughter to Disneyland for her birthday, I said slowly. That's not a crime. That's not betrayal. That's being a mother who wants to make her child happy. It's backstabbing the family, my father suddenly shouted, slamming his hand on the coffee table. We've been getting calls all week from church members, from neighbours, from clients, all asking about Emma's Disney trip and why the other grandchildren weren't included. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about Emma's feelings or even her cousin's feelings. This was about appearance, about what other people thought of them. So this is about your reputation, I asked incredulously. Don't act innocent, James snarled. You knew exactly what you were doing, showing off how successful you are, while making the rest of us look like we can't provide the same for our kids. You've always been like this, Amanda chimed in, always thinking you're better than us just because you have your own business. Some of us have different priorities. The accusations continued growing more ridiculous with each passing minute. Apparently, I had orchestrated the entire trip as some elaborate scheme to embarrass them in front of their social circle. I had deliberately posted photos to make them look bad. I had undermined their parental authority. Enough, wait, my father finally said, raising his hand for silence. There's only one way to fix this, Cassandra. You need to take all the cousins to Disneyland. The same experience, the same number of days, the same everything. That's the only fair solution. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. You want me to take James and Samantha's 3 children to Disneyland, at my expense? It's the right thing to do. My mother nodded solemnly. To restore harmony in the family. That's insane, I said, unable to hide my disbelief. I saved for months to afford this trip for Emma. I'm not spending thousands more to take my nieces and nephew just because their parents are jealous. The room erupted in outrage. Samantha burst into tears. Amanda stormed out, slamming doors. James stood up, pointing his finger in my face. This is why nobody can stand you, Cassandra. You've always been a selfish bitch. James, my mother gasped, though her objection seemed more about his language than his sentiment. My father stood slowly, his face flushed with anger. If you can't do this one thing to make things right, then maybe you need to reconsider your place in this family. We've tolerated your rebellious attitude for years, but there are limits to our patience. Tolerated me, I laughed without humour. I've built a successful business while raising a child on my own without real support from any of you. And now you're mad because I didn't get your permission to celebrate my daughter's birthday. You're a backstabber, my father hissed, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Always have been. Looking down on your family, thinking you're better than us. If you won't fix this, then maybe we don't need you in our lives. Something broke inside me at that moment, the last thread connecting me to the illusion that my family had my best interests at heart. Emma. I called up the stairs. We're leaving now, sweetheart. You walk out that door with that attitude, you're dead to us, my father said. I turned to look at him, at all of them, these people who shared my blood but seemingly nothing else. That sounds like a blessing at this point. Emma came downstairs, confused by the tension filling the room, the red faces and tear-stained cheeks. Why is everyone mad? She asked in a small voice. We're just having a grown-up disagreement, I said, taking her hand. We need to go home now. But I didn't tell Grandpa about the pirate ship yet, she protested. Another time, sweetheart, I said, though I wasn't sure there would be another time. As we walked to the door, my father's voice followed us. This isn't over, Cassandra. You'll regret this. Emma was crying by the time I buckled her into her car seat, sensing the wrongness, even if she couldn't understand it. As we drove away from my childhood home, I wondered if I was making the biggest mistake of my life, or finally correcting a lifetime of mistakes. Either way, there was no going back. But why is Grandma mad that we went to Disneyland? Emma asked that night as I tucked her into bed, her small face scrunched with confusion. Didn't we have fun? We had the best fun, I assured her, smoothing her curls back from her forehead. Sometimes grown-ups get upset about things that don't make sense to kids, or even to other grown-ups. Will they still love me? The question broke my heart. Of course they will. This isn't about you at all, honey. Everyone loves you very much. I hoped I wasn't lying to her. The next 2 weeks passed in eerie silence. No calls, no texts, no emails from any family members. Sunday came and went without the usual dinner. It was as if we had suddenly ceased to exist in their world. The silence was both painful and peaceful. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel the weight of my family's judgment pressing down on my shoulders. Still, the absence of contact left me questioning everything about our relationship. Had I truly been selfish? Was taking Emma to Disneyland such a betrayal? The rational part of me knew the answer was no, but decades of conditioning had me doubting myself. I scheduled an appointment with a therapist, hoping to gain perspective. Dr. Winters listened to my story without judgment, then asked a question that stunned me with its simplicity. If a friend told you this story about her family, what would you tell her? The answer came immediately. I'd tell her they were being unreasonable and controlling. So why is it different when it's your family? She asked gently. I had no good answer. My friends rallied around me during this time. My business partner Melanie brought dinner one night and stayed to talk after Emma went to bed. I've known your family for years, Cass, and I've never understood why you let them treat you this way, she said bluntly. Normal families celebrate each other's successes. They don't punish them. They're not all bad, I said automatically, the defensive response ingrained after years of making excuses for their behaviour. Name one truly supportive thing they've done for you in the past 5 years, Melanie challenged. Something without strings attached. Again, I had no answer. After 18 days of silence, an email arrived from my mother. The subject line read, simply, family duty. Cassandra, your behaviour has deeply wounded everyone who loves you. Your father has been unable to sleep. Amanda has had anxiety attacks. James and Samantha have had to seek counselling for their children, all because of your selfish choices. It's time to put aside your pride and make things right. We are your family. Without us, you have nothing. Think about what example you're setting for Emma with this stubbornness. We expect to see you Sunday at dinner with a proper apology and a plan to make amends. Mom, no mention of missing me. No concern for how Emma and I were doing during this estrangement. Just manipulation and guilt, thinly veiled as concern. I wrote back a simple response. I will consider returning when I receive a sincere apology for being called names and threatened in front of my child. 3 days later, a plain white envelope arrived in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message. If you want to know the real reason your family is upset about Disney, ask about the business loans and gambling debts. Check public records for tax liens. Not everyone in the family is as financially stable as they pretend to be. It wasn't signed. The handwriting on the envelope wasn't familiar. I almost dismissed it as a cruel prank, but something about the specificity of the accusations gave me pause. I hired a private investigator, an unnecessary expense, but I wanted answers from someone with expertise in finding them. I gave him the names of my family members and their business, requesting financial background only, nothing personal or intrusive. A week later, he delivered a folder that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. My father's insurance business, long presented as a thriving enterprise, was barely staying afloat. They had taken out 3 substantial loans in the past year alone. There were indeed tax liens against the business property. James had a separate set of problems. Court records showed gambling debts that had resulted in collection actions. His house, the house he had often implied was more valuable than my modest home, had a second mortgage taken out 8 months ago. Perhaps most shocking was Amanda's situation. My independent sister, who had claimed to be saving for her own place while working part-time. She had no credit history in her own name. No bank accounts, no evidence of income beyond minimal cash deposits. She was completely financially dependent on our parents. The investigator had also uncovered something I hadn't asked for, but which explained so much. Social media searches revealed private posts from my family members, about me posts I couldn't see because they had restricted my access. Posts calling me mentally unstable and desperate for attention. Posts suggesting I was showing off with my business success because I was compensating for being a single mother. Years of subtle undermining, all documented in their own words. The final blow came when the investigator found an email from my father to a business associate, accidentally made public in a chain of responses. In it, he referred to Emma as the mistake that Cassandra insists on parading around as if getting pregnant without a husband is something to be proud of. My daughter, my beautiful, innocent child, the light of my life, a mistake to be ashamed of. In that moment, the last vestiges of familial loyalty died within me. This wasn't just about Disneyland. This wasn't even about control anymore. This was about a fundamental lack of respect and love for the two people they claimed to care about. With evidence in hand and clarity in my heart, I prepared for one final confrontation. On the advice of both my therapist and lawyer, I prepared carefully for what would likely be my last interaction with my family. I sent individual emails to each of them, attaching relevant documents from my investigation without commentary. I then suggested meeting at a public coffee shop downtown rather than at their home. James responded first, surprisingly conciliatory. I had no idea Dad showed you those emails. That was wrong of him. Can we talk in person before the meeting? I could use some financial advice right now. So it wasn't remorse, it was opportunity. He needed money. Amanda's response was defensive and accusatory. I can't believe you hired someone to spy on us. Who does that? This just proves how paranoid you are. You're always digging up dirt instead of trying to be a better daughter and sister. My parents took a different approach, claiming the documents were obviously fabricated and that I was creating drama to avoid responsibility. They agreed to the coffee shop location, however, perhaps believing they could control the narrative better in public where I'd be less likely to make a scene. I arrived early, selecting a corner table with clear sightlines to the rest of the cafe. I ordered a chamomile tea to calm my nerves and waited. They arrived together a united front. My mother's lips were pressed into a thin line of disapproval. My father's face was flushed with anger, barely held in check. James looked nervous, avoiding eye contact. Amanda seemed to have been crying. Samantha had apparently stayed home with the children. Cassandra? My father nodded curtly as they settled into their seats. No one ordered anything. Thank you for coming, I said, determined to maintain my composure. I wanted to talk about what happened and why I felt it necessary to investigate our family situation. There was nothing to investigate, my mother interrupted. This is just another example of your tendency to dramatize everything. I took a deep breath. The documents I sent you weren't fabricated. They're public records. Anyone could find them. I didn't do this to hurt you. I did it because after 34 years, I deserve to know the truth about why you treat me the way you do. And what truth is that? My father scoffed. That we've supported you through every bad decision, that we've welcomed your illegitimate child into our home as if, don't you dare call her that. I cut in my voice low but intense. Emma is not illegitimate. She is perfect and loved and the best thing that ever happened to me. The point is, James interjected clearly, trying to diffuse the situation. Family matters should stay private. Digging up financial records and old social media posts that crosses a line, Cassandra. What about the line crossed when you called me a bitch in front of my 5-year-old daughter? I asked. Or when Dad said I was dead to him if I didn't take your kids to Disneyland at my expense? What about all the lines crossed in these posts calling me mentally unstable? I placed printouts of the social media posts on the table. Amanda flinched. Those were private, she muttered. They were about me, shared with dozens of people, just not with me, I corrected her. You've been undermining me publicly for years. My father waved his hand dismissively. This is ridiculous. If you've called us here just to throw accusations... I have recordings, I said quietly. The table fell silent. What recordings? My mother asked, her voice suddenly thin. From our last family gathering. Florida is a one-party consent state for recordings. I recorded the entire conversation where Dad called me a selfish bitch and threatened to cut me out of the family. It was partially a bluff. I had recordings from my phone that captured some of the conversation after I'd sensed things escalating, but not the entire exchange. They didn't need to know that. You wouldn't dare, my father growled, his hand tightening around his unused napkin. I don't want to use them, I said truthfully. I don't want to hurt you. I just want you to understand why I can't be part of this family dynamic anymore. So now you're threatening us? James asked incredulously. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, James? Besides spread rumors about me being an unfit mother, I slid another printout across the table, a private message from him to a mutual acquaintance, questioning my parenting abilities. His face paled. That was taken out of context. Was it? Because it seems pretty clear to me. I turned to my parents. The truth is, you're not angry about Disneyland. You're angry because I'm financially independent when the rest of you are struggling. You're angry because I don't need your approval anymore, and that means you can't control me. My mother's composure cracked. We've only ever wanted what's best for this family, she cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. You've always pushed boundaries, always thought you knew better than everyone else. Because I dared to live my own life, because I succeeded without Dad's help, I asked. Is independence really such a terrible thing? You make us look bad, my father admitted, his voice suddenly tired rather than angry. James and Amanda followed the rules. They stayed close to family. You left and built your own life, and now you're more successful than your brother. Do you know what that does to a family's dynamic? It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to me. Not an apology, but at least an acknowledgement. Samantha can't stand you, James added bitterly. Every time you post about a new design project or client, she feels like a failure. When you took Emma to Disney, she cried for days because we can't afford to do that for our kids. Not with my situation. His gambling, my father clarified with obvious disgust. Another family matter that should have remained private. I never meant to make anyone feel bad, I said, genuinely surprised by these admissions. I've just been trying to build a good life for Emma and me. Well, you have, Amanda snapped. And the rest of us are left looking like failures by comparison. I told everyone you were an unfit mother because at least then I had something you didn't. Some way I was better than perfect Cassandra. The cafe had grown busier around us, the afternoon crowd filing in for their coffee breaks. A barista dropped a mug behind the counter, the crash momentarily silencing all conversation in the shop. In that moment of quiet, my father leaned forward, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. If you think we're going to sit here and be humiliated by you, you're mistaken. We can make things very difficult for you, Cassandra. Your reputation in this community. Mr. Reynolds. The manager of the cafe approached our table, his expression concerned. Is everything all right here? Some of our customers have expressed concern about the tone of your conversation. My father straightened instantly, reverting to his public persona. Everything's fine, just a family discussion. It doesn't sound fine, the manager said firmly. I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voices or continue this elsewhere. The interruption broke the building tension. My father sat back, visibly seething but contained. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a fresh tissue. Amanda stared at the table. James kept checking his phone, clearly wishing to be anywhere else. I took advantage of the momentary calm. I didn't come here to fight or threaten anyone. I came to say goodbye. I can't be part of this family dynamic anymore, not when it's built on resentment and control rather than love. You're choosing to abandon your family over a temper tantrum, my mother asked incredulously. No, I'm choosing to protect my daughter and myself from emotional abuse, I replied. My voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. I won't expose Emma to people who call her a mistake behind my back. My father's eyes widened fractionally. He hadn't expected me to know about the email. That was years ago, he muttered. It was last Christmas, I corrected him. And it tells me everything I need to know about how you really see us. I pulled out my phone and made a show of opening my contacts. One by one, I deleted their entries while they watched my father, my mother, James, Amanda. With each deletion, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. What are you doing? Amanda asked, her voice small and frightened. Creating boundaries. I answered simply. I wish you all well, I truly do, but I won't be available for family gatherings or communications until there's genuine remorse and change. Emma deserves better, and so do I. You're making a terrible mistake, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. You'll regret this when you have no one. A woman at the next table who had clearly been listening to our conversation leaned over. Sounds to me like she's making the healthiest choice possible, she said pointedly, before returning to her laptop. My father's face reddened with the public rebuke, and he stood abruptly. Let's go. She's clearly made up her mind. Cassandra, my mother tried one last time. What about Emma? She needs her family. She needs healthy relationships with people who truly love her, I corrected gently. When you're ready to be those people, you know how to reach me. I watched them leave my father's rigid back, my mother's hunched shoulders, James's nervous glance back at me, Amanda's tearful face. I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness for what could have been. As they pushed through the door, my phone buzzed with a text from my father. This isn't over. People will hear our side of the story. I deleted it without responding and drove home to my daughter, ready to begin building a life unencumbered by toxic expectations. The first thing I did after the coffee shop confrontation was change my phone number. The second was hire a security company to install cameras around our house. The third was consult a family lawyer about protecting Emma from any potential custody interference, an unlikely scenario but one I couldn't risk after discovering my family's private discussions about my parenting. Emma noticed the changes immediately. "Why does the doorbell make pictures now?" she asked, pointing to the new video doorbell. "It helps us see who's visiting before we open the door," I explained. "Like having a peephole but better." "Is it because Grandpa was so angry?" she asked with the unsettling perceptiveness of children. "Is he coming to yell again?" I knelt to her level, taking her small hands in mine. "No one is coming to yell at us. These are just extra ways to keep us safe and happy. Like wearing a helmet when you ride your bike. We probably don't need it, but it's good to have just in case." Explaining our family situation was more complicated. Emma asked about Sunday dinners and when she'd see her cousins again. I tried to be honest without burdening her with adult problems. "Right now, Mommy and the rest of the family are taking a break from each other," I said carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups need time apart to figure things out." "Like a time out?" she asked. "Something like that. A very long time out." The questions continued for weeks, gradually becoming less frequent as our new normal took shape. We established new Sunday traditions, pancake breakfasts, followed by trips to the park or museum. I enrolled Emma in a children's art class, where she made friends with kids her age, giving her social connections beyond family. My therapist helped me work through the complex grief of family estrangement. "You're mourning the family you wished you had, not the family that actually exists," she pointed out during one particularly difficult session. "The disconnect between those two visions is the source of your pain." Slowly, I began to recognize patterns of manipulation and control that had shaped my entire life. How my father's approval had been the currency of our household. How my mother enabled his behavior while presenting herself as the peacemaker. How James and Amanda had learned to compete for favored status by aligning with our parents against whoever was currently out of favor. I had been playing a game I could never win because the rules kept changing to ensure I would lose. Professional success became my anchor during this time. I poured myself into my design business, expanding my client base and hiring 2 additional employees. Creating beautiful, functional spaces for others gave me a sense of control and accomplishment that helped counterbalance the personal turmoil. My friends stepped up in ways I hadn't expected. Melanie invited us for dinner weekly. My neighbor Rachel offered to watch Emma when client meetings ran late. My college roommate Lisa, who lived in another state, called regularly just to check in. Slowly, I began to understand what healthy relationships actually looked like. Reciprocal, supportive, without strings attached. "You've built a chosen family," Dr. Winters observed about 6 months after the estrangement began. "People who value you for who you are, not what you can do for them or how you make them look." Through mutual acquaintances, I occasionally heard news of my biological family. My father's business was struggling more openly now. James and Samantha had listed their house for sale, downsizing to a smaller property. Amanda had finally moved out of my parents' home, but into an apartment they paid for. None of it brought me joy, but neither did I feel responsible for their circumstances. Then came Emma's 6th birthday, 1 year after the Disneyland trip that had catalyzed our family breakdown. I asked her what she wanted to do to celebrate. "Can we go back to see Moana?" she asked immediately. And so we found ourselves at Disneyland again this time, without the shadow of family disapproval hanging over us. Emma was a year older, more confident, more adventurous in her ride choices. I was different too, lighter somehow, less anxious about pleasing others, more present in each moment with my daughter. On our last night watching the same light parade we'd seen a year before, Emma looked up at me with her father's dark eyes in my heart-shaped face. "We don't need them to be happy, Mommy," she said suddenly. "Who, sweetheart? Grandma and Grandpa and everybody. We're happy just us, right?" I hugged her close, amazed by her resilience and insight. "Yes, we are. We're very happy just us." "And Moana," she added seriously, clutching her doll. "And Moana," I agreed with a laugh. When we returned home, I made a decision that had been forming for months. I put our house on the market and began looking for opportunities in Denver, where a college friend had connections in the design industry. We needed a fresh start away from the whispered comments and awkward encounters that were inevitable in a town where my family had deep roots. Emma took the news of moving with typical 6-year-old concerns. Would her toys come too? Could she still do art classes? Would she make new friends? When I assured her on all counts, she embraced the adventure with enthusiasm. We can pick all new colours for my room, she confirmed, already planning. Absolutely. You'll be my special design assistant. As we packed our house, I found a box of family photos I'd removed from the walls months earlier. Pictures of Emma as a baby with my parents. Holiday gatherings where we all smiled for the camera despite underlying tensions. My graduation day with James and Amanda flanking me. I didn't throw them away. Instead, I wrote a letter to Emma and placed it with the photos in a box she could open when she was older. My dearest Emma, I wrote, someday you might have questions about your grandparents, uncle, aunt, and cousins. You might wonder why we left, or if you did something wrong. You didn't. Sometimes adults make choices that hurt other adults, and relationships become too broken to repair. I wanted you to grow up seeing healthy love, not conditional approval. I wanted you to know your worth isn't determined by how well you follow others' rules. The letter continued honest but age-appropriate, a record of my decision and its reasons that she could understand when she was ready. Our move to Denver opened a new chapter. My business thrived in the growing city. Emma blossomed in her new school. We found a small but vibrant community through neighbours' work connections and Emma's activities. On Sundays, we still made pancakes. Some traditions were worth keeping. I never heard directly from my parents or siblings again, though occasional news filtered through mutual connections. My mother suffered a minor stroke 2 years after our estrangement. I sent flowers to the hospital but didn't visit. My father retired selling what remained of his struggling business. James divorced Samantha amid rumours of continued gambling problems. Amanda finally found steady employment as an administrative assistant. These updates arrived like dispatches from a distant country I once lived in but would never return to. I felt compassion for their struggles but no responsibility to fix them. 5 years after cutting ties, I met David, a kind architect with grown children from a previous marriage. He understood my boundaries around family and respected the close relationship I had with Emma, now 10, and developing her mother's creative eye and independent spirit. Some people are born into healthy families. I told Emma one night after she asked if she would ever meet her grandparents again. Others have to build their families from scratch. We got to build ours, and that makes it special. She considered this with the thoughtfulness that always surprised me. Like designing a house that's perfect just for us. Exactly like that. I smiled. We get to choose the foundation, the walls, the windows that let in light. We choose who belongs in our space and who doesn't. The peace I found after breaking free from toxic family dynamics wasn't immediate or easy. It came gradually built day by day through therapy, new relationships, and the simple joy of raising my daughter without the weight of impossible expectations. I sometimes think about that Disneyland trip that broke the facade of family unity. It wasn't the cause of our estrangement, but the catalyst that revealed what had always been beneath the surface. In trying to create magic for my daughter, I accidentally exposed the painful truth that had been hidden in plain sight. Real family supports your joy, celebrates your success, and loves without conditions. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic people, even family, to protect your peace? Leave a comment below and let me know if you've faced similar difficult choices. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes the family we build is stronger than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, you deserve relationships that bring light to your life, not shadows.